Imagine a shadow that moves of its own accord, an ancient shape, its eyes hollow and its fingers as elongated as the twisted branches of a dead woodland. Long before Hollywood discovered fear, this forbidden figure already haunted Europe's forgotten corners, born from ancestral nightmares and sealed onto celluloid like a forbidden rite. Its deformed body carried not only a curse, but also the genesis of a new kind of horror. The horror that breathes through the lens, invading the viewer not with words, but with the silence of the abyss. This being, which dared to be filmed against, every warning awakened something long dormant. And the world was never the same once its silhouette crossed a doorway. You are about to meet the creature that breathed life into the very first true horror film. In 1922, Germany was still licking the wounds of the First World War. The streets were draped in raw melancholy, and although the cities had been rebuilt, they still trembled under the weight of memory and loss. It was a time when the veil between worlds felt thinner, and ghosts, not only those of war, walked among the living. In that fertile soil of despair and mystery, a cursed cinematic masterpiece was born, fashioned by hands that seemed guided by forces no one dared name. The studio behind it was Prana Film, a name now all but forgotten, but in its brief, singular breath, it dared to invoke something beyond comprehension. Its creator, Friedrich Wilhelm Murnau, was more than a director. He was a summoner. Fascinated by occultism and the old legends of Eastern Europe, Murnau sought more than mere entertainment. He wanted to touch the unknowable. Rather than adapt a conventional horror tale, he chose to reinterpret a dark myth whispered for centuries in villages hidden among the Carpathians. Filming took place on real locations, chosen not only for their lugubrious appearance, but for their symbolic charge. Forgotten ruins, woods where sunlight barely dared to enter, villages whose inhabitants still left offerings at doorposts when the moon turned new. Murnau believed these places held ancient energy, and by filming there, something genuine might be captured. It is said he consulted old grimoires before shooting, and some scenes were shot at specific times in the pagan calendar, as if he sought to align the film with an esoteric ritual. The actor chosen to embody the creature, Max Schreck, was enveloped in mystery even before he accepted the role. Virtually nothing was known of his personal life. There were no records of his childhood, and his presence off-set was almost ghostly. He slept in separate quarters, avoided natural light, and rarely spoke outside the filming. Some whispered that he was not merely acting, that something more profound was at play, that what appeared on screen was not performance, but a being awakened by Murnau, now using Schreck's body as its vessel. Crew members themselves reported inexplicable occurrences. Equipment failed when attempting to shoot certain scenes. Costume designers swore they saw shadows moving on their own. An assistant vanished during a nocturnal shoot and was never found. The production felt haunted, and many involved claimed to suffer recurring dreams of the creature. Dreams in which it watched them from high towers or crawled along the walls of their bedrooms as they slept. When the film was finally released, audiences were unprepared. It was not the theatrical terror they expected from Gothic plays or printed tales. It was something different. Something that did not scream, but whispered. That did not attack, but waited. People left screenings in silence, as if something had been taken from them without their realizing. Many described feeling watched for days after viewing. The film seemed to cling to the soul, a curse transmitted through the image. This was only the beginning. The creature had crossed the screen, and with it, something ancient stirred. What few know is that the film, despite its silent impact, almost vanished forever. Soon after its premiere, the heirs of a famous vampire author, whose work had been used freely as the screenplay's basis, launched a ferocious lawsuit against the producers. The court ordered all existing copies destroyed. The verdict seemed extreme, but for the superstitious, it was a relief. It was like sealing a profaned tomb once more. And yet, one copy survived. A hidden negative, passed in secret from hand to hand, escaped destruction like a cursed fossil. This fragment of the forbidden continued to be shown in obscure, often clandestine screenings. Strangely, in every town where the film played, similar stories began to circulate. Reports of gaunt figures glimpsed in the shadows, people falling ill for no clear reason, animals fleeing cinemas in panic after late-night showings. What should have remained a forgotten expressionist production became living, or undead, legend. The film's symbolism is what most unsettles scholars. The creature is not merely a vampire, but an aberration of time, unlike any monster folklore had ever presented. Its distorted form, its inhuman movements, its dead eyes, it was as if it were not crafted by human hands, but summoned from a blasphemous painting lost to time. Its name is not even spoken with reverence, as if mentioning it might draw its attention. Many occultists believe the character's design was based on idols of extinct cults, such as those of Uralic peoples or the bone devourers of the forgotten Transylvanian mountains. During filming, minute details escaped the crew's notice, but were identified by occultists years later. In one scene, the shape of the windows forms a symbol known as the Eye of Thammuz, an ancient emblem associated with the Vigil of the Dead. In another, the pattern of light and shadow cast by a candle resembles a runic diagram of invocation. Many believe these elements were not accidental, but subtle marks left by Murnau or Shrek, part of a ritual hidden beneath the guise of art. Over time, rumors grew that Murnau himself paid dearly for his audacity. He died tragically in a car accident in 1931, shortly after announcing plans for another even more daring film based on arcane texts from a secret Prague library. The most disturbing detail? His tomb was violated. Murnau's skull was stolen and has never been recovered. The crypt bore traces of black wax and strange symbols. Some say an attempt was made to seal his soul. Others believe they sought to silence him forever. Max Schreck, for his part, vanished from the screen almost as swiftly as he appeared. Few records exist of him afterwards, and some claim he never truly existed, that his name was a pseudonym, and the entity in the film was not a man playing a creature, but a creature masquerading as a man, a mirror image of what we understand as acting. Even decades later, those few who view the film in its original form report an oppression far beyond mere dark aesthetics. Something in the creature's eyes seems to pierce the film, as though it judges the viewer, waiting, seeking something or someone. Decades have passed since the creature first crossed the screen, yet its impact has not waned. If anything, it has deepened. In an era when cinematic horrors rely on digital effects and thunderous soundtracks, it endures as an unsettling silence, a presence that needs no words to terrify. There is something in its form that defies time, as if the very celluloid that carries it has absorbed a fragment of ancestral curse. Occult scholars still debate whether the creature was a human creation or a captured manifestation. Obscure internet forums periodically surface accounts from people who watched the film and were thereafter haunted by similar visions. They describe repetitive dreams of a figure watching them from the dark corner of a room, or waking to a sensation of weight on their chest, its unmoving eyes staring into the darkness. In some accounts, the creature transcends the forms seen on screen, evolving to mirror contemporary neuroses, becoming a warped reflection of modern fears. There are even theories that the film was a deliberate attempt to capture the essence of a real entity. According to a manuscript circulating among esoteric circles, Murnau consulted an ancient grimoire known as the Codex Umbra, its obscure origins detailing formulas to fix specters through light. This technique, described in archaic language, suggests certain imaging rituals could imprison a soul, or at least draw its focus into the visible realm. If true, the film would be a portal, a trap of silver and shadow where the creature still resides, awaiting release each time someone watches it in full. The creature's aesthetic also defies the era's norms. Its gaunt, almost skeletal frame, its cadaverous face with eyes of vacant gleam, and its long, gnarled hands more akin to claws have never been convincingly replicated. There is something both sacred and profane in its image, as though it carries a forbidden symbol within. Some liken it to the fallen angel of Gnostic lore. Others see it as a shadow of the archetypes of death and pestilence that haunted the Middle Ages. Most disturbing of all, even in modern restorations, the creature seems to gain definition, as if its image adapts to current technology. Restoration. Experts report inexplicable distortions in the original negatives. Lines forming forgotten runes. Moments when the film appears to flicker as though another layer of reality is trying to emerge. A recent 4K release was pulled after reports of convulsions, hallucinations, and nervous breakdowns in solitary, midnight viewers. The company responsible cited a technical fault, but occult forums insist the cause was spiritual. Thus, time has not erased the creature. On the contrary, it has made it stronger, more real. An icon of terror that transcends its own era, because it did not originate in cinema, but used cinema as its passage. Every new screening is an offering. Every gaze into its dead eyes, a whisper that feeds its existence. Perhaps the greatest secret is not the creature itself, but what it represents. Proof that true fear needs no sound or words, only a presence that watches us in the dark and never averts its gaze. Revisiting the origin of the first horror film, we find not merely a forgotten production or an expressionist classic, but a ritual, an ancestral call that has traversed generations, hidden beneath layers of film and shadow. The creature born in that movie was not simply portrayed, it was invoked. It did not come to entertain, but to remind us that some forces will never accept oblivion. There are forms of life that neither breathe nor bleed, but feed on attention, fear, and the human gaze. From the project's obscure inception to modern tales of haunting and unease, this entity's trajectory is marked by constant unrest. It never disappears. It merely adapts, changes name and form, yet remains ever vigilant. Because more than a creature, it is cinema's dark mirror, a craft that captures moving souls, freezes emotions, and transmits terror across time. Perhaps the most terrifying thought is that each time we watch that film, we feed something. We renew an unspoken pact felt upon our skin. A shiver, an odd silence, a reflection where none should be. Because in the end, this forbidden creature embodies a primal dread, that certain images carry more than meaning. They carry presences, and some of those presences never forget those who have seen them. If you have read this far, be careful if you seek out that film tonight. It may still be waiting for you.